Hi, welcome to our second episode for Ladies on the Line. I'm Katelyn Bordwell, and this is my co-host, Tanja Gellenthien.
All right, everyone. It's great to be back. And today is going to be a recap of Rushmore Rumble, the ATA show, archery and bow hunting super show. And we're really excited to talk it all through with you. Um, Caitlin, do you want to talk about how, this was the first event of the year, but it was also your first event with the Matthews, and you had just come back from holidays, so you had 2 days to kind of get ready for this event. So walk us through it.
Yeah, this event was something I added on last minute. Already had the vacation planned, and I usually don't get to go because I get back from that vacation, and the very next day is when this tournament starts. But this year I had 2 days in between, so I was like, I'll try it. We'll
I
see
could
how
do
it
it.
is. My expectations were extremely low. I don't like taking a week off from shooting and then trying to shoot, I didn't, even though I had very low expectations, I didn't even meet those expectations, but that's
It's
okay.
okay.
Yeah, but I always feel like I added this on because I always feel like the first shoot of the year, you kind of need to get like the kinks out and like feel that pressure again that you haven't felt in a while. And switching to Matthews, I didn't know how shooting that bow was going to feel in a tournament. And I learned a lot this last weekend. There's a lot that I shoot great at home, but when you have nerves going on, everything changes. It's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But wearing the Matthews jersey, this is the first time I really got to wear it, and that was, it was different, putting it on and being like, this isn't not what I'm used to, even just having a different jersey on. But it was exciting. It was cool to do. But yeah, I think that for me, the not being as strong as I normally am, taking a week off. I mean, it's only a week, but I still feel like I lose a little bit. And then having nerves on top of that, I feel like when I have nerves, I feel even weaker than I normally am. So I had a lot of dip bangs going on, that kind of thing. And like I said, I learned a little bit how this bow feels when I'm nervous and what I think I need to do to help with that. And like I came home today, actually this morning, and I shot in the range and I felt completely fine again. And I'm like, all right, so it's definitely a nerve thing. It's a mental thing. Yeah, that was the first experience with it. It was a learning experience.
Yes. I always feel like no matter how many years you've done this and how many times you've done it, when you start, you've had like a short break. And when you go from outdoor season to indoor season, it's a couple months. And then when you start back up, it feels like you start all over again with the nerves and how to manage them.
Yeah, and I've always had issues mentally for indoors. I think I did USATs this last year for the first time, and I had those same mental issues at the beginning, and I slowly was getting a lot better with it. I was hoping that that was going to come along with me to indoors, and it didn't quite come along with me, but I think that I learned a little bit though for outdoors with that mental stuff that I need to start applying for indoors, but we'll see.
I think it's one of those things where, like you said, you learn so much outdoors and hoping to bring it with you. I think you'll see that it'll come a lot faster. Like if you hadn't done it, maybe it would take you, let's say 5 or 6 events. But now that you've done it, maybe you're already ready by Lancaster next week.
Right, yeah. That's what I'm hoping. And like I said, I came to this with the thought of, I don't want to go to Lancaster as my first shoot of the year. I want to do something else that's going to be, this shoot does matter, but a shoot that doesn't matter to me as much, just to kind of, like I said, get those kinks, figure out what I need to do, how I feel when I'm nervous, that kind of thing.
Yes, I think we all feel that way. And Iowa Pro-Am used to be the one I went to, in the beginning of the year. So it's nice that there's now Rushmore Rumble or, just to get the year started and, like you said, get all the kinks out.
Yeah. And I think the positive thing with it is like, when you shoot bad, I know for me at least, like I get mad. Like I'm not happy and I feel like crap. But I feel like that can be a good thing too, because like it makes me want to practice more and work harder, which, is good coming up to a tournament. Like Lancaster is not this weekend, the following weekend, but like now I'm like, okay, I need to do a lot more. It's pushing me more. So there's a positive side to it too, I think.
Yeah, I think any archer who has, been a pro, they've gotten there because when they shoot bad, they're like, no, this is not good enough for me. I want to do, you know, I can do better than this. And then they go home. And like you said, you came home and you went like straight to the practice range because you're like, I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah, exactly. And I know like as soon as I got done, sorry, as soon as I got done, I just like instantly wanted to go to the hotel room and just be upset. And there's like all those people. And like I don't blame these people. They don't know. But they always stop and ask you like, "Oh, how'd you do?" And it's just like and you have to fake being not mad at the moment just to be like, "Yeah, I didn't do well," and have a conversation, and really on the inside, you're just like, "I really wanna get back to my hotel room right now and just be upset for a second." Like, that's I feel like one of the worst feelings ever when you're walking back.
It's so hard when you have a bad event and even how you deal with it with now you don't travel with your boyfriend or anything, but it's so hard when I travel with my husband to not take it out on him, you know, cuz you want to be mad and it's easy to do, but me and Braden we have a thing where we're like, okay, you had a bad event and you're allowed to be mad about it. You get 15 minutes to complain all you want. Just let it out. But once those 15 minutes are over, we're done. We're on to the next and just gonna figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, that's good, and
Oh,
I
that's
think
good.
also, like, when you're staying with someone, you don't want your mood affecting their shooting as well, and I think, like, also when you're in a group and you're shooting bad, like, you don't want your crappy mood affecting the people shooting, so, like, there is that little bit of like you said, like, you need to just get over it, and then, have that moment, but then get over it.
I think it's the only way you can go about it. And it's okay to keep it and bring it to practice and be like, okay, this is what went wrong and this is what I'm mad about. But use it in a more constructive way and it's like, how do I fix it? Where do we go from here?
Right, exactly, but I know you did good this last weekend. How did that
Yeah,
feel for your first one?
I think um I talked to my dad this morning. He was like, "So how did it go?" He's not on Facebook much or anything. And I was like, "It went better than I expected, but not as good as I wanted it to." And I don't know if that sounds awful to say, but you always go to an event and you want to win. I think that's why we all go. We're like, I want to win, but I was also trying to be realistic and know that I didn't get to practice as much as I wanted to. And Braden was gone for a couple days beforehand. And so I didn't have anyone to watch Thor while I was practicing. It was, you know, me trying to figure out how to do it with him solo parenting. So it was a lot less arrows than normal, which is not very many at all. And yeah,
Which I got to see firsthand while you guys are practicing, even when you're both together. I mean, Thor's still there, and I got to see one of you has to shoot bottom, one has to shoot top, and you swap back and forth. And like, even though you don't have them that second you're practicing, you're still having to like be a mom and a dad, like in the between ends. And like, that's still a lot.
yeah, it's a lot to juggle all the time and can tell, last year indoor, I had an event where we didn't have a babysitter, and I was like trying to figure out who was watching him. And we had some amazing people, he was a baby then, holding him. But still, I found myself standing on the line, like looking back all the time and like, oh, is he okay? Oh, he made a noise. Are they okay? Like I didn't want to burden them. And that event was probably the worst score I've ever shot in my career because I was so worried and looking back the whole time. And I think I told Braden, I was like, I don't ever want to go if I don't know that we have someone to watch him because no matter how hard I try, my brain is just going to be focused on him and not archery. It's gotten better, over time, but I think just as a mom, it's hard to tune out your kid.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. I'm
Yeah.
not there yet, but I could see it.
No, don't rush it.
I'm
But
not.
yeah, but yeah, we had the first day, Saturday, we shot the first round. It was the 60 arrows, and me and Braden were fortunate enough to shoot two different lines. He shot the early one, which I felt really bad for him because Thor is not a great sleeper, but that night leading up to Saturday was particularly bad. And we finally got him to sleep the night before, and then he woke up at 2 a.m. and decided it was time to party. And I knew Braden had to get up early and shoot, and I tried my best to keep him away from Braden, but every time I kept him away from Braden, he started crying and he just wanted to crawl on Braden, and Braden was trying to sleep because he had to get up early. And I felt so bad. And he finally fell back asleep at, I think, 4 a.m. And it was just, but Braden had to get up at 6 a.m. and it was, yeah, I felt bad. And Braden shot amazing for getting very little sleep. But that's, you know, another thing that we have to think about. So Braden had to shoot the early one. And I was like, okay, I could shoot the one right after. But then, if I want to practice a little bit before I have to shoot, then I still have Thor because Braden's still shooting. So it's better if I shoot the late line because then we have time to, switch the kid between us. And so there's so much planning that goes into an event when we don't have a babysitter, which we didn't do at this event. We tried to manage it just on our own. And Sunday, they put us on the same line. We all shot the 10 o'clock line. Braden was a rock star, shot and had Thor the whole time. So he made sure I could focus. Well, he's the reason I did as good as I did because I was able to not worry about Thor. Braden was out there shooting and then walking back to Thor, who was, I think, half the time he was sleeping. So that was nice. But the other half, one of the moms was really nice and played with him. And yeah, it's a lot to juggle. But
Do you
apart,
think so I know sometimes when people are sick, you're physically not as good, but your head is just so tired that like the mental game becomes, I want to say for some people it becomes a little bit easier because they're just shooting. Do you think with like not having as much sleep, you felt like you had a little bit of that at all? Or did you feel like you had your normal nerves up there or?
so for the 60-hour rounds, I definitely wasn't as nervous as I sometimes am. I don't know if it had anything to do with my sleep or if it was just my expectations being low because I know I hadn't practiced super well. And I was trying to focus super hard because I didn't want to miss, you never do. But I knew there was a bigger chance than normal. Like back when I shot a million arrows and I shot every day, I'd go out there and I'd basically just turn everything off and just shoot. And that worked the best. Now I can't turn everything off. I have to think about all the things that I need to do to make the good shot because it's not as second nature as it used to be. Um, that's why I mentioned in the post that I made that day after the 60 arrows, I was like, this is the most disciplined 60 arrows I've ever shot because every single arrow I shot out there was me being like, okay, this is what you got to do. And then while I was shooting, going through the shot, talking myself through it and make sure every part of it was perfect. And the last shot, I missed my very last shot, never done that. But I missed my very last shot and it wasn't nerves. It wasn't, oh no, or whatever. It was just slightly less discipline than the other 59 shots. And that cost me. And it's just crazy, and it's a very depressing way to miss because I've worked so hard all day, you know how long a round like that takes. I worked so hard for so many hours and then it just all goes out the window because you miss one.
Yeah. And like you said, like that's a really long game. 5 arrows, 60 arrows. It's really long. And like even just shooting a 3 spot compared to the 5 spot, it's only 2 extra arrows. But just the mental game of staying focused and putting in as much effort for every single one of those arrows is so much harder. So like
It is.
I do understand that last shot, like probably you are losing a little bit of that mental stamina of like being able to just keep on working just as hard for that. Like I get that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, most people, me included, practice 3 spot at home most of the time, and you'll maybe shoot 5 spot a couple days before the event or whatever. And so your body isn't used to the 5 arrows. And it's weird because outdoors, I shoot a minimum of 6 arrows. So you'd think it would be totally fine to shoot 5, but it just doesn't work like that. It's weird.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like not only I mean it's obviously more physically challenging, but I think it's more in your brain than anything, just that focusing. And I don't know why. For some reason the 6 arrows outdoors seems easier to keep focused to me than the 5 spot indoors. I think part of it might be like, it's only 20 yards, there's no wind, so you're thinking, I don't have to, but you do. It's a lot.
It is, and it's many hours and yeah. But I just wanna talk about one more thing, the question you asked before about, like, how you asked me less sleep, if that ever sometimes made it easier to shut off the brain. When I was a teenager, we kinda had a little test, back with our national coach back then, and we were at this camp that lasted like a weekend, and we had a 24-hour event where you had to shoot basically all 24 hours, and you had one partner so you could like swap in and out and figure out who shot when and where. But the goal of this kind of test was to figure out when you shot best during the day and just test your brain during different hours of the day. And I think it was almost all of the archers shot best around 2 or 3 a.m. when you're past like the sleepy, like, oh, I want to go to bed, but you're so tired that your brain just shuts off and you just stand there and shoot, and everything is just muscle memory. And once you got past, 3 or 4 a.m. and you shot for a bit, it went downhill fast, like super bad, because then you got super tired. But it was just crazy to see how, like you mentioned, that more or less sleep or like what time of day, sometimes less sleep can help you turn your brain off because it's so tired it just kind of shuts down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually
Yeah,
a
that's
really
really
interesting test. That's pretty crazy.
yeah.
Um, and I've heard of people that I know, like for like Lancaster, I know some people will specifically sign up for the early time because they're like my brain's not fully on yet. Like I'm not able to get as nervous. Me personally, I rather shoot at a time where I know my brain, where my body and everything is happy feeling. I rather sleep in and, put more practice and effort into hopefully getting my mental game better because I feel like you're kind of rolling the dice that, maybe me being sleepy is going to help. Maybe it's not. Like it seems like a 50-50 chance. So I don't know if I would want to try and do less sleep. But that is a really interesting concept, I think.
Yeah. No, I completely prefer to be, fully aware and able to control my brain. But yeah, it is super interesting how the brain works and, all that stuff and how much of it is actually muscle memory.
Right. So
Yeah.
you dropped the one on Saturday. Sunday you cleaned, didn't you?
Yeah. So there was a bunch of us at 5.99 after the first day. I can't even remember how many. There was a bunch. And Leanne Drake was still clean. She shot a 600 the day before. And so I was like, well, I know if there needs to be any chance of a podium, I need to clean the second day. Um, and I kind of figured like normally one or two girls drop a 9 just statistically, but I figured most of them would. And I think at that event, I kind of just drew on my experience a little bit from all the Vegases, and it was a pretty chill day of shooting. I was like, I tried to tell myself, you've done this before, you're going to do it again. You know, there's no reason to get nervous over a simple 10. And so once we finished, shot the 300, Paige told me there was only 3 of us that were still left. So that meant so Leandre cleaned it, shot amazing, shot a 900, probably her first one ever, I think, and won the
I
event.
would guess, but big congrats to her.
Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing shooting and really cool to see. But that meant there were only 2 more podiums left, and there's me, Paige, and Alexis Ruiz left, and we had to figure out who was on the podium and who got 4th. And it's never fun making it that far and putting in that much effort and, shooting in the shoot down like all the others and then not, making the podium. We've all been there. I've been 4th many times. It's just never a fun
Yeah.
placement. I think going out there when you don't know if you're going to make the podium or not, it's always a little bit harder because you really want to.
Do you think there's like because you couldn't get first. It wasn't possible. Is there a difference in mentality in a shoot off like that, knowing like, okay, I can get first still? Or is it still just as pressure with you knowing like I have to do good, I have to win this debate podium? Or
I think for me, it's the same. It's the competition person in me wants to win, and whether the winning is winning second place or winning the event, I want it equally bad. I'm always going to be nervous out there. Sometimes it's not always for first, but it still matters to me, and I think it matters, to everyone else out there. Um, it's why we go to these events. You're not going to win all of them, but it's still pretty damn cool to make the podium.
right, right. I think it's also cool too to like bring up that, there was three of you that only missed one, Lennon didn't miss any. And then I'm not sure after you guys how many only missed two, but like the women's scores now compared to even just 5 years ago, I feel like have drastically changed.
It's
I know, like, always for the men, it's always been, like, you can't miss. But for the females, it was like, okay, you can miss a couple or whatever. But now it's becoming for the women, like, you can't miss either. If you want to win, you have to hit all of them.
Yes, it's crazy how it just changed almost overnight. It was like you said, you can't miss anymore. Like if you want to win, and sometimes it's not even enough to win. If even if you clean it, a lot of times you still have to shoot for a podium, which is what the boys have been doing for many years. I know, but it's so cool that the ladies are getting to that point too. And I always give credit to Ligo Areola for this. And she's not the only one who made a huge difference. I just remember when she won Vegas the first year with a 900, she came in and she was this 14-year-old girl, got a 900 like it was the easiest thing in the world. And I think she blew the mind of everyone in archery. Just
Yeah, like, I never heard of her. Yeah.
yes. And she was like, yeah, I do this all the time. And the rest of us are struggling, to shoot these 900s. And I think at that point, we were just like, okay, we just got our butt handed to us. We have to, we have to step it up. And I think that's when it really, really changed because ever before that, if you shot a 900 or even 999 or whatever, you'd win Vegas or whatever. Ever since that, you haven't won Vegas by just shooting a 900 shot a 900, but other people shot 900s and you'd have to shoot off to win. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I don't know if you looked at all, but I looked at the young adult women's scores from this last weekend, and those were crazy too. There was a girl that she shot a 900, and I don't remember the X count, but it was in the 80s, like it was high up there. And then there was, I think, second place, she dropped 110. Like even like the young adults like that are coming up, their scores are raising and raising too.
I know. I'm kind of scared for them to join us.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, how old is she? When's she coming up here?
I know. There's so many good shooters out there. And honestly, just happy that more and more women are shooting and staying in the sport. And because there aren't a lot of us. And while it might make it harder to win an event, I think it's cool. And it's only going to help the sport and help us. And just in general, it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the more competitive we are, the more interesting it is to watch. And, we need people to watch us for this to grow. We need that. So, no,
Yes,
it's really good.
that's exactly. Speaking of, growing the sport, this was also the first year that they combined the Rushmore Rumble with not just ATA, but they also called it, Archery and Bow Hunting Super Show. And it was basically ATA for the first 2 days where I think it was just dealers. And then the last 2 days, they opened it up to the public and everyone could come in and check out the booths and the vendors and I think is that the first time in history they've ever done that? I think.
I can't think where they've ever had a shoot at ATA.
No, I
I
don't think
I think it
so.
was a great idea though.
Yeah. How do you think this first year went?
I think it went really well. I wish I knew how many I should have looked it up, how many shooters were at Rushmore last year.
I believe
But I heard it
last
grew.
year, so I talked to Bruce. Last year was 400. This year was 937.
Yeah, so I mean that's a huge growth. That's more than double,
Yes.
which is awesome. There was I know I sat with one day I watched my brother Glenn shoot and there was people sitting with me that have never been to a tournament shoot before. They were a dealer there, working ATA and they came and they're like, "Oh wow, I've never seen I've never seen the recurves or the bare bows. Like I've never seen this many divisions at a shoot before."
Yeah.
That was cool to have both. The only thing I wish they did a little differently, because like I never walked into the ATA portion.
Mm.
It felt like it was a bit separate in the building. I
Mhm.
wish that they put like the tournament inside like the same area as the show so it was a little bit more like intertwined, you know what I mean? Like you had to make the effort to go, I'm gonna go look at the shoot or I'm gonna go look at the show.
So you kinda want it a little bit more like Vegas where you're shooting is where all the vendors are, and you kinda have to walk through to get to the shooting area?
Yeah, that's what I think,
Sure,
because
that's
I
what I
just think that, like, these people that I sat with, they came because they wanted to see the shoot, but, there wasn't a ton of people that I know of that came over just to see it that were at the show, but I feel like if it was there right in front of them, then, they're gonna stop and look for a second and realize, like, wow, the tournament world is actually kinda cool.
Yeah, and that's maybe something they'll improve on in the future. I'm assuming it's because it's 2 different organizations, it was ATA and then NFA, and you still have to buy access, to one or the other, but that's, I think, something that could be really cool too,
Yeah.
to kinda make it seem a little bit bigger.
Yeah, but I think in general though, like it was a great idea. I think it brought a lot more people that I mean, I came just this year because the date wise worked, but I think that there was people that I talked to that came, just because it was a cool event, they get to go to the show as well, which they added that public access to it this year, which I think you had said, which for some people that was really cool. Like, oh, I get to go to a shoot and then plus I get to see this really big, cool show.
Yes, I'm not entirely sure on the exact number, but I think there was like 2,000 people that at least bought access to the public days of the ATA show, which is I I mean, I know they want bigger numbers, but I think that's really cool and I think it's a great start. And I think if they continue to try and grow it, I think it could be really big.
Yeah, yeah. What did you think of it being gosh, where were we? Where was the location of the shoot?
Indianapolis.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't think of it. What did you think of Indianapolis as far as, like, the city?
For me, it was super convenient, 3.5 hours driving. So I love that. But anytime we're at an indoor event and we're in one of those cities where they have those walkways, I love it. And I know it's a small thing to think about when you're shooting an event, but it's freezing outside most of the time. And I don't want to have to walk outside with my bow and like hold it with freezing hands. It's so nice that you don't have to exit a building to get to where you're shooting.
Yeah.
It's just so convenient. So to me that really matters.
No, I agree, and there was so many hotel options within walking distance, like which is nice when especially when you're staying with someone that you have different shooting times. There's no like, "Oh, we have to get a car," which I think that makes it cheaper for people. You're not renting a vehicle, and, you're
Exactly.
able to walk when you wanna go shoot and practice when you wanna go practice. I think it was good.
Yeah, I think it worked out great. I like the location. It wasn't a crazy expensive city. I'd be okay if that was a more permanent site for this event, They had room for all of it and they could grow it a ton and still have room for everyone there.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I've been there years ago for ATA, but I've never like actually, walked around and like checked stuff out and it actually was pretty cool there.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't walk around the city much cuz it started getting cold right around when we got there. It was more of
Yeah.
a but yeah, it's
I brought earmuffs and a winter jacket and was fully prepared. I had to get my steps in for the day.
I would normally bring all that stuff, but I think I hadn't looked at the weather probably from home and I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be like 55. I'll just bring my summer jacket." And then it got cold.
Yeah. Yeah, it snowed one day too, pretty good too. It got a little freezing.
Yeah. But so this was the first NFA event of the year, and I can't remember how many there are. Is it 10 or some 10 event or whatever a year events?
Yes.
10, yeah.
Yeah,
But
10.
this was the first event of the year, and for shooter of the year, they changed the rules this year. And so you normally have to shoot all events, and they put all the points together, and then, the one with the most points win.
I don't think it was all 10 originally though. I'm trying to remember because Rushmore wasn't part of it.
No,
Um
it wasn't.
no, originally it was Vegas, Reading, Field Nationals, Outdoor Nationals, and Indoor Nationals.
Coda Classic.
Dakota Classic. Okay, that was the one I'm missing. Yeah. So
Yes.
you had to go to all of those ones originally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And now let me read from the NFA website. To qualify, archers must compete in at least 4 eligible events within the same Shooter of the Year category, making program qualification more accessible than ever before. Final standings are determined by an archer's top 6 placement finishes. Yeah, so top 6 placement out of all the eligible events is how you determine Shooter of the Year.
And I think the way that we are reading it, which we have to get this confirmed by
Yeah.
Bruce, is you only have to do 4 to be eligible, but you can get up to 6.
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it. I believe how it is, which I think, the whole changing of it is like they're saying it's going to make it more accessible to everyone, cuz I always found it really hard to make all the events. It was just a lot in one year with when you're shooting USATs and ASAs and World Cups and all those things too. It was just too much. But, making it to 6, for some only 4 events seems super doable.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that I mean like it adds more shoot's ability too. Like the shoot wasn't part of it originally, but now it is. If someone really really wants to try hard for it too, they can even do all of the shoots if they want.
Right.
But
Yeah, they're
the
taking so
cool
you can shoot.
thing
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that I think the cool part too is like, so I mean, like Reading's a bit different than indoors, and an indoor is a bit different than fields or whatever, the way the scoring system works. Because originally they would just take your scores and add them up. If you have someone that is absolutely, amazing at Reading, shoots 100 points. I'm just throwing out a huge number, 100 points higher than everyone else. That puts him on such a higher leg. Where this, I feel like, gets more of the overall shooter, the person that is consistently placing towards the tops in all avenues of NFA.
Yes, I think so too. And I'm interested to see how the first year is going to go. But like you said, it gives them more equal opportunity. So yeah, I'm excited to try it out and see what it's going to lead to.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, there hasn't been many people eligible in the last few years, so it's definitely going to open up that.
Yes, I think so. It's like said, it was hard to make it with all the other events, and I think it was like that for most people. It was just too much to make in one year.
I think that the other interesting part was the pro greeting thing. Are you able to
Hmm.
read off that?
Pro.
Meet and greets.
Yes. Let me just find that really quick. Yep. Professional archers are eligible to earn 2+ bonus points for attending each pro-am or Meet the Pros event. A maximum of 6 bonus points may be earned each year.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting because I mean, that has nothing to do with how anyone shoots.
It does not. I mean, I think they're trying to force us pros to go to the pro-am events or the Meet the Pros, which I understand, but like you said, it doesn't really have anything to do with your shooting.
Yeah. Yeah, that I don't think I like everything else so far except for that point, I think. Like you said, it is important that we do go to these meet and greets
Except
and
that.
stuff. Yeah, I think we should be there, but I don't think people should get points for shooter of the year for being there.
No. They could just put in there that you have to go to minimum 3 events to be eligible for shooter of the year. That seems more I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. That gives incentive, but it's not, putting someone up above somebody else just because they didn't go to. There's
Yeah.
circumstances or whatever when the time that they have
You also have to make sure that if
the
you
meet and greet.
you have to make sure if you go to these event yeah, like, you have to make sure you're not shooting, and you have to go find an NFA employee and be like, "Hey, just check me off your list because I want those points," you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I'll call it interesting thing that they've
Yes.
added on. I feel like not too many people know about the Shooter of the Year change. I feel like I haven't heard it talked about.
No, I haven't heard anyone talk about it, and I also feel like this little rule could easily be overlooked and forgotten about. Maybe we shouldn't have mentioned it
Yeah.
and just hope that no one else would find out.
Yeah. Get ourselves 6 points ahead of everybody. That's what I was just thinking. Maybe we should cut this out.
Exactly. Oh, well, we're being nice.
Yeah, well, if you've made it this long through
We'll
our
cut it out.
podcast, you're welcome.
Exactly, exactly. If you've made it this long, you get to hear a little secret.
Yeah, yeah. And our next podcast, we'll throw a little thing at the end too, so make sure to listen all the way to that one.
Maybe that's what we do. We just put a little bit in at the end, but, like, a different point every time so you can't just skip ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you ever had, our schools did it, or I would have some teachers do it, where they would give you a test, like a quiz, and the very first line says, like, "Read all of the directions before starting this quiz." And you'd read all the directions, and then you get to, like, the last question, and the last question says, like, "Do not answer one question in this quiz," and just hand it in, and they would give you pens. So, like, the kids that didn't follow the directions to go all the way through, would start writing it in, and they'd get to that very last piece and realize, "Oh, shoot, I wasn't supposed to do any of this." But
Yes, yes. And I will say I've been on both sides of it. I've done both.
alright, I am back. Sorry about our little bit of connection issue, but I think we're just about done with this anyways, aren't we? Or was there more you had to add?
Yeah, I think we No, I think I've asked all the questions I wanted to ask, and we've reached all the topics that we wanted to talk about.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for tuning in. See you for the next one.
Bye.